Hello, my name is Kuba Kucharski and this is the Dev Team Project, a podcast exploring methods, approaches and skills needed to build great engineering teams. So, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Welcome everyone to another episode of the Dev Team Project, this time from Osaka, Japan. And we have here with us Santiago Palladino, lead developer at OpenZeppelin, a company that is focused on developing tools to write and deploy decentralized apps. Company that specializes in security audits. I'm glad we have this. This is going to be a first episode. We're talking to a leader from a security-oriented company. And Santiago has more than 8 years of experience in leading teams. I would like to hear more about what brought you here. Obviously I don't mean what brought you to Osaka or to Japan. But why you're here? Why you're now an engineering leader? What is your story?
It's an excellent question. For me, actually leading a team of engineers happened almost by chance or naturally. I happened to have the chance to be working with awesome people and started working more towards coordinating them, towards arranging the project, and starting moving in between the line of an individual contributor and a manager. And if I have to be honest, I'm still undecided as to where I want to go. That's why I still work in relatively small teams. Haven't worked in teams larger than about 10 people.
Okay.
And I still enjoy a lot to code. I'm not willing to give that up. But I really like the ability to be able to empower and to facilitate a team of awesome engineering people. And honestly, it's super rewarding to see the kind of stuff that these kind of guys can do and can accomplish if put together and gave all the environment they need to thrive. And in that sense, it's a super particular experience, because what used to be your accomplishments, your commits, your code that you have put out there and the things you have built is no longer yours. I think that the good goal of a manager could be to become as invisible as possible and just let the people in the team thrive and build and like what they're doing and provide a safe and a cool environment for them to do whatever they want. And I think that's the best way to actually to get something built.
It's like one-on-one, but yet not everyone knows this, right? But I would like to talk with you more about this whole blockchain space. I know a lot of technical people, developers are super skeptical about this.
Yes.
There's this perception that it's all about speculation and bubbles and pyramid schemes, and so it's associated in this bad way. So why so many developers and scientists are flocking into this space?
I mean, it's a very good question. I can totally see why blockchain has such a bad publicity. I mean, you go 5 years ago, Bitcoin being synonym with buying drugs, with Silk Road, with black markets. You go to 2017, you have Ethereum being synonymous with ICOs, with people scamming investors for millions and millions of dollars and then running away. And the sad thing is those are the projects that have the greatest publicity and not the projects that are actually building something awesome, something interesting. For me, the main allure of blockchain has been that it's an entirely new paradigm for building things. I think it's similar to the mobile revolution, about 10 years ago, when we actually started having the whole power of the internet in our hands. It actually changed how we program, how we think technology for people, knowing that now it started to be ubiquitous, that everyone has access to technology right on their hands. Okay, now everyone will start having access to finance in their hands, to have access to decentralization, to a whole new kind of applications. And being able to participate in this new revolution, if you want to say so, on a whole new kind of applications and systems that can be built, that was super interesting for me, not just for the use cases that it opens, but because it moves into it requires a change of mind on how you code and how you build things. And being able, well, actually being in OpenZeppelin that does developer tools and sets the pace for how many things are built is awesome for me. I mean, being able to set the ground on how some things are being built and designed in this new paradigm is a one in a lifetime chance.
Yeah, to add on this, like for me, something that was always, dragging me into the space was this idea of this always on shared virtual machine that we could all connect to, and it's solving so many like interoperability problems.
Definitely.
Because there are like certain standards to interact on a blockchain, so it kind of really is a new paradigm right now.
Definitely, and picking up on what you were saying before regarding also researchers flocking into this, it's super interesting from an academic perspective in that there are many things that were just in the plane of research before, and now they are finding very practical, super interesting applications in the blockchain space. Things on game theory, on mechanism design, a lot of stuff around cryptography. I'm not sure that zero knowledge had such an explosion before this. And it's really also formal verification is getting a lot of very concrete applications now in the realm of smart contracts. So it's like a new world that's
money at stake, right? So
absolutely, and not just money at stake. It's a smart contract is a very constrained execution environment where some formal methods that actually couldn't manage all the complexities of a whole system when constrained to something small and very particular and super critical, they shine there.
So developers that are moving into this space, what kind of challenges that are facing when trying to become a blockchain engineer?
Many. I mean, I developed mostly web applications before joining blockchain, which means I was very much exposed to the JavaScript environment. Anyone who has been in that environment knows that it changes super quickly, and I thought that until I joined Ethereum. So much for immutability changes. Things change super fast all the time. It's super hard and at the same time super interesting to keep up with all the things being built, all the new technology and everything new that comes up. And that is also a reason why it's challenging to enter the space. Not only because all the new things that you have to learn, and it's also difficult to find resources to do that because everything is changing super fast. And
so what is actually changing? Like comparing to the mobile revolution, it was like things were also changing fast. Mobile systems were evolving. For example, Android was like moving version, breaking. It was like not backward compatible and things like that. What is changing so fast in the blockchain space?
Everything. I mean, you have a lot of change in the use cases, in the stuff that people are trying to build. I mean, we went from just small token networks now to whole decentralized finance systems. You have protocols that compose with each other to build even greater stuff. You have synergies that were not thinkable of months ago. You have a whole set of so-called layer 2 solutions, basically things that complement Ethereum itself to make it more scalable, more usable, more approachable. And those things are changing super fast, are evolving, and are a subject of super hot research now.
So like new tools emerging, environment changing all the time.
Absolutely.
Like
And at the same time, you have to couple that with a very immature tooling. I think that in Ethereum, its abstraction leakage is a huge problem nowadays because we are moving so fast and we're not taking the time to slow down and make sure we have a strong base, strong set of libraries, strong set of tools. We at OpenZeppelin do work on that, but honestly the change is so fast that it's hard to build a stable base that persists over time because you have to be constantly adapting and constantly changing to the trends and what new things are being built out there.
So now the hard question. So
Shoot.
How do you onboard developers into this like hot mess, right?
It's a very good question. We do have some resources for learning, some guides. Some of them we maintain ourselves, others we bring from the community. Personally, I've written a book even on how to develop web applications on top of Ethereum. It was published last week actually. no, I don't force new people who join the company to read the book. That would be a little bit self-centric.
But maybe someone will join you because you write a book, right?
Hopefully, that would be super interesting. But yeah, onboarding is a super difficult process, and it honestly depends on what part of the company the person is joining. We have both a product and a services approach at the same time. Services is much more oriented to auditing and hard security at a lower level. Product, while still keeps an eye on security, also needs to have a strong focus on usability and understanding what's the state of all the tools in the ecosystem in order to be able to play along nice with them. So it depends on whether we ask them to go on a more theoretical approach and go a little bit deeper on the inners of how Ethereum works to be able to audit and understand what are all the possible security risks, versus something much more hands-on on, okay, just go, pretend you're a user, use the tools, get your hands dirty, ask as much as you need, and through practice, you eventually learn.
Okay, so I need to ask, like, so OpenZeppelin is like probably one of the best teams out there when it comes to blockchain. So how much time does it take to like onboard a developer into being like a proper blockchain engineer? And I know this varies from case to case, but average time that you have someone that is skilled enough that can go on their own.
Okay, I joined the company about 2.5 years ago. I'm still being onboarded, definitely. I mean, honestly, I don't think you can ever finish the onboarding process here.
Onboarding is a continuous process.
Definitely, yes. For a more practical approach on, okay, when can a new member start writing production-ready code, if you want to say so, I would say a couple months, 1-2 months. Of course, always the first things being developed, whether it's an audit or a particular feature, they are always reviewed by other team members. But yeah, I would say 1 to 2 months should be a reasonable time frame. It also depends whether the developer had exposure to Solidity and Ethereum in general before or not.
And when you're trying to like source people or decide whether they are good fit, what are you looking for?
It's a very good question. For you to get an idea, our current head of research has a PhD in physics. One of the best developers in my team is an electronic engineer and used to build smart suitcases.
Okay.
So honestly, we look for passionate people who want to learn, who are motivated by the challenge, and it's incredible how fast they catch up. I mean, we do have traditional developers, if you want to say so. I consider myself one of them, but honestly, we look for people with passion, willing to learn, and ability to ship stuff.
So, like, what is the process then? Getting hired in OpenZeppelin. Let's assume I want to be hired by OpenZeppelin.
Got it.
Like, what do I have to do? What will I have to go through?
Got it. We have the usual first interviews, screening process. We have our HR specialist, who is awesome. Then you probably go through an interview with a team lead. Could be myself, could be the head of research, depending on what you prefer, whether to go on more services or product.
Okay.
And then what we do is we design a work test. The work test, of course, is paid. We won't be asking you to work for free. And we try to design something that will be representative of what you would be doing.
Okay.
If you're going on audits, you get probably a fake project to audit. If you're going on product, you can design something yourself. You can add a feature to something out there. We basically try to match what interests and what motivates you with what you need and what will be good for you to understand, okay, how it's going to be working with these people, and for us to understand how you work, how you build, how you prioritize, how you communicate, how you deal with frustration, because if you are new to the Web3 space, you will be frustrated at first, you will get errors, tools won't work, and you need to understand how to move past that. And after that, interview with the founder, and if it all goes well, you're in.
And so you work with this person actually, like?
Yes.
So it's not like a take-home assessment.
No, definitely not.
It's like you work with this person.
There is one person of the team is assigned as a coach throughout this process, So the idea is that the applicant goes through designing and developing all this project, all the time communicating with his coach. The coach can help with technical questions, can help with prioritizing, and most important, will evaluate the communication. Something super important, especially because we're a partially distributed team, is that the person joining must be super efficient in communication.
So tell me now more about the team, like how big is it, like where is the team?
Got it. The team now, we're about 20-something people, and we're distributed between Buenos Aires in Argentina, Costa Rica, the US, Canada, Moscow, Australia. So we have a little bit of a mix.
So it's not like distributed offices, it's actually remote people in multiple places.
Yes, that's correct. We do have one office in Buenos Aires. That's where the founder is from. But we also have many people working from abroad.
And getting back for a moment to to the security aspect and onboarding, do you have like any specific training when it comes to security?
Yes.
And creating, I guess, in a company like OpenZeppelin, you need to have this kind of culture of security and embedded in people. So how do you do this?
Yes, I think that the first thing is probably operational security, like internal security. You need to keep yourself safe before you keep safe what you build. And I think that's the first thing on getting people on the correct mindset, in particular those who do not come from a security background. It's completely legal to hack other people if they leave their computer unlocked. So just to try to promote everything on the safe side.
When you mean unlocked, you mean like the
screen is unlocked, you go grab a cup of coffee.
But if SSH is open or something like this, is it still okay?
Everything is valid,
Okay.
So
just
you need to be on your guard. But speaking more seriously, yes, we do have a couple of guides around security, specifically on smart contracts. Yet I think that the biggest training comes from practice and from very thorough reviews on everything we build. Everything we code goes through very strict reviewing process with more than one pair of eyes going through it, and same goes for the audits.
So you've mentioned that the team is distributed. So there's an office in Buenos Aires and there are people all over the world. So how you solve this? What is your way of dealing with time zones and
it's super interesting.
Communication and this asymmetry with some people being in one place and the rest of them being elsewhere?
I think that's the biggest challenge. Particularly it was for me. I hadn't before being at OpenZeppelin, I hadn't managed a team of remote people. I had coordinated separate teams, but always my team was present at the same location as I was. For me, it has been a learning process, and the key thing has been hiring remote people who have experience in being remote. And in that sense, it's the new people who joined that have taught me and other people at Zeppelin on how to take a good remote-first culture. On practical terms, we make sure that all communication gets written, so you don't have to be on sync to know exactly what's happening. We use Slack for communication, we use Slab for wikis and writing documents and sharing thoughts, and we do try to sync at least once a week. And especially we try to use these things not just to share updates and what everyone is doing, but also how they are doing personally.
Okay.
And we try to set aside some time so that people within the same team can share some personal stuff as long as they want, and basically get more connected to their teammates. I mean, we don't like being machines who drink coffee and spit out code, but rather to have a more personal relationship between ourselves.
Yeah, you've mentioned a really important thing about this, personal relationships, and this is very important, for manager and software engineers. So how you make sure that those one-on-ones that are like 2D camera are working? How do you break the ice, with new people kind of together?
For new people, what we do is as soon as they are hired, we fly them to the office in Buenos Aires. So they spend 2 or 3 weeks with the majority of the team. Half of the team now, I would say. Most of them are distributed. That acts as a first icebreaker. I mean, after you have met with someone in person, the relationship is totally different. And also twice per year, we hold retreats where we fly everyone to the same location. Actually, 2 weeks ago, we were all in the Caribbean, so
that's so
location
cool.
was pretty interesting. The one previous that was right after DevCon last year, so we went near Prague. So that also helps on building this sense of belonging and building these personal relationships beyond the camera. Still, I mean, after you have met a person face to face, then virtual communication gets much, much easier. You get to understand the person at a different level.
But then I think there's still this effect of, conversations within the office, like near the water distributor or something, in the kitchen. So people are talking they are, at the same office. And those people out there, are kind of stranded. Like, I know that you told me that all the things are being written.
But I totally understand. There are communications that happen spontaneously, and you are not going to say, "Hey, shut up," because
or "Hey, just write it down right now."
Exactly.
Right?
I mean, extra work communication that happens at the water cooler, of course, makes perfect sense, and it's natural. For work-related thing that happens at the water cooler, the idea is, okay, if you have arrived actually to something interesting, write it down and share it with the rest of the team.
There's a conclusion, write it down.
Yes. Or even if there isn't, okay, something like, hey, we have been discussing this, it may be interesting to pursue this, and that, and just throw it out there, where out there could be either a channel in Slack, Docker in Slack, or even a forum where we can also loop in the rest of the community, which is quite interesting because you actually start producing more material to get more people interested in what we're building. In that sense, we try to make sure that everything that's work-related does become accessible to every single team member, as long as they're interested, of course.
Do you have like any specific format for this, or just loose notes and just write it down in whatever form you're in? Okay.
I mean, we're about 20-something people. I
don't
think we
works.
need that number of processes at this stage.
That will be like premature optimization.
Exactly, filling form F43 with all the details of the discussion you had next to it. No, we're fine.
Yeah, and you're also building tools, right? So building tools is kind of like building a product, and you're in this comfortable situations that you're building tools for developers, and people building those tools are developers. But do you have like any specific like product process in place, the way you're defining features, cutting features? Do you have like a function of product owner?
It's a super good question. Right now, no, we do not have a product owner at the moment. But the idea is to try to look for the pains that we see on the audits we perform and apply them to the products we build. Basically, by auditing a project, we get a very, very unique view into what the people who built that went through. You don't, even though you're looking for security issues, you can also get a sense of the development process of that project. And you can also see what was part of the business logic, what was part of infrastructure that was not there and they had to build themselves. So you start seeing patterns of what people need, what people are building, and we can then translate that into the product size and make sure it becomes part of our open source offering.
But this is still fuzzy for me. Like, who makes decision what we're building and what we're not building? Like, how you do this right now?
It's a very good question. Right now, it's mostly a collaborative process. The part of the team that's building the product, we decide, okay, we want to go in this particular direction. We get buy-in from the CEO, from the head of research as well, to make sure we're all aligned, and then we go in that particular direction.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, that's like an amazing conversation.
It's super fun.
And I think it will be super useful for our audience out there.
Hope so.
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Kuba, for having me here. It was super fun.
Yeah.
It was really super fun.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just like a conversation, right?
Yeah.